Suzanne Somers is one of the most adored sitcom actresses of all time. A brilliant actress who graced our screens in shows like Three's Company and Step by Step from 1977 to 1981. But while she worked to entertain us, life kept dealing her one gruesome blow after another. But the most gruesome of all is the one that almost cost her her only child and her own life. What is it? Follow us along as we uncover the untold stories of Suzanne Somers, while also showing you some of her rare photos. Suzanne Somers, born on October 16, 1946, is the third child in her family. Her dad worked with beer, loading it onto trains, and her mom was a medical secretary. When Suzanne was just 6, things got rough. Her dad started drinking too much, and it got worse to the extent that he'd call her mean names and even embarrass her. It was super scary for young Suzanne because he'd get physically abusive too.
My father was an alcoholic. It's not easy growing up with an alcoholic. He would tell me the same thing over and over. You're stupid, you're hopeless, you're worthless, you're nothing, you're a big O.
She grew up always afraid that something bad might happen to her because of him. It really sucked because she never really felt the love of her dad, which messed her up emotionally big time and left a big emotional scar on her life. And as if that wasn't enough, she got diagnosed with dyslexia, which made learning difficult for her. School was tough, but she found solace in the arts and joined the theater program. Even though her life was challenging, Suzanne gave her best at school. But when she turned 16, her dad tried to abuse her again. This time, she couldn't take it anymore, and in self-defense, she hit him with a tennis racket to protect herself.
And that went on for so long until one very violent night where I went after him. And I think that was the first night I ever took my power. I'll show you. You can't treat us like this. And I've used that my whole life.
Her dad got really hurt and stopped talking to her for a whole 2 years. It was just really sad and messed up for her. It's sad to think that Suzanne had to go through so much pain and trauma at such a young age, but she also showed strength and determination to keep moving forward. She found comfort in doing what she loved at school, and it turned out to be a good thing in the end. She got a music scholarship for college. It was like a dream come true. But then, life threw another curveball her way. Suzanne got pregnant, which wouldn't have been so bad, but she was still pretty young, and it brought a lot of shame to her parents. She had no choice but to marry the baby's father, a guy named Bruce Somers, in 1965. At just 19 years old, she had to deal with all the stress and anxiety of being pregnant, and she had to let go of her dreams. To make matters worse, during a checkup with a doctor, something horrible happened. He crossed the line and touched her inappropriately. He assaulted her without consent. No gloves, nothing. This terrible incident made her so scared and shocked, but she didn't tell anyone about it at the time. Later, she found out that he had done the same thing to other women too, and thankfully, he got arrested and convicted for it. In November 1965, Suzanne gave birth to her son, Bruce Jr. But unfortunately, she wasn't happy with the marriage, so she had an affair with her former drama teacher. Regrettably, her husband, Bruce Somers, found out about the affair, and their marriage ended just 2 years after they got married in 1967. The divorce left her in a difficult situation. She had nowhere to go because she had distanced herself from her family due to their struggles with alcoholism. Suzanne felt completely lost and had to confront the harsh truth of being homeless. The only shelter option she had left was her car, so she held on to her beloved son, Bruce Jr., seeking to find warmth in their miserable situation. Life was an uphill battle for Suzanne as a single mother and aspiring actress. She later got a house, but she had to sell it and move into a cheap motel to make ends meet. Unfortunately, she couldn't keep up with the rent at the motel, so she was kicked out. Suzanne experienced severe acute agony and could feel the pressure of failure mounting on her. She and her son spent each day living in the confined space of her car, holding on to hope and pleading for a miracle. Days melted into a haze of uncertainty and sadness as it appeared as though the world had abandoned them. But out of the gloom, a flicker of joy appeared. A friend who was actually an angel in disguise offered them assistance and a place to stay. Their tired souls at last found some solace in the warmth of a roof over their heads. Eventually, amidst the devastation in her life, some things began to come together for her. Suzanne was hired as a prize model on a game show presented by Alan Hamel in 1968. But another love tale was just around the corner, and Suzanne found herself infatuated with Alan Hamel, who was already married. Despite the complications, they went on their first date, and believe it or not, she stayed the night at his hotel, and they got intimate.
I did that. My first date with him, I did everything my mother told me not to do. I was 20 years old, and I thought I may never get another chance. So I had my first pot brownie. It's the first time I ever went to a man's hotel room, and this first time I ever slept with a man on the first date. But we're here all these years later. I just knew. I knew he was the one. That's that lucky thing, that chemistry thing. What is it?
Yeah.
If you believe in past lives, or maybe we knew each other in another life, but I just knew.
It took me 2 days to feel this way. She felt it.
And you guys
Yeah.
still...
Yeah. My first reaction, love, it was lust. But 2 days later, it was like, wow, this is really important. I don't know what it is, but I've never felt this before. But this is something I want to pursue.
But that wasn't the end of her tough times. In 1971, her son got seriously hurt in a car accident. Money was tight, but she found a therapist who only charged a little to help her son. But it wasn't just the son. Suzanne herself went to therapy to heal from her tough upbringing. It was rough, but she refused to give up and held on to hope for brighter days. And you know what? Fate finally decided to cut her a break. Eventually, she hit the jackpot and got a spot on the 1976 series Three's Company. She based her character on Dick Clark's wife, and things were looking good. She also tied the knot with Alan Hamel, the man she had an abortion for in 1977. It felt like her dreams were finally falling into place. However, that happiness was short-lived. The heartbreaking blow came when she dared to ask for a raise at the beginning of the 5th season, and the response was devastating. The producers fired her just because she wanted to be paid fairly, like the male stars of the time.
I felt I deserved it. I mean, I had the highest demographics of all women on television. And I was on the #1 show when there were only 3 networks. And the men were being paid 10 to 15 times more than I was. So I asked for commensurate pay, and they had already decided to fire me because Laverne and Shirley, their contract was up right before mine. And they went in and renegotiated, and I guess they gave ABC a colonic. And and they then passed an edict that they're not going to let women have a say in what they're being paid, and they're not going to be paid according to what we're paying the men.
But before she was fired, they forced her to finish the season and treated her like an outsider. She had to film her scenes separately, escorted by a security guard, as if she were some kind of threat. Finally, when her contract expired, they kicked her to the curb. She fought back, suing them for $2 million, saying they ruined her reputation. But even after she fought for her rights in court, the settlement was a mere fraction of what she had hoped for. The pain of betrayal and the damage to her credibility took a heavy toll on her career. And the road to recovery was long and arduous, with doors closing and opportunities slipping away.
They painted me greedy. They painted me... she's trying to ruin the show. And so the whole show, cast and crew, shunned me. So I never talked to anybody on that show ever again.
And while she was battling with her career, Suzanne found herself entangled in a secret affair with Frank Sinatra in 1980. It was exciting and thrilling to be with the legendary singer. They met at a party in Las Vegas and hit it off right away. For several months, they shared stolen moments, meeting in hotel rooms and exchanging love letters. She felt on top of the world, but little did she know the heartache that awaited her. Despite Sinatra's charm and romance, there was a darker side to him. He became possessive, jealous, and insecure, pressuring her to leave her husband, Alan Hamel. But her love for her husband and her commitment to her marriage made it impossible for her to comply. It was a painful decision to make, and when Sinatra finally ended the affair, it shattered Suzanne's heart into pieces. To rebuild her career, she had to go through a tough transformation. She became a singer, a comedian, an author, and even an entrepreneur, trying to find her footing once more. Relocating to Las Vegas, she performed extensively, but deep down, she carried the sadness of lost love. And then came the shocking twist, posing nude for Playboy. It wasn't something she planned on, but the financial burden from her son's accident left her with few choices. Though it was for a noble cause, she couldn't help but worry about her son's feelings when the photos were published.
I was a teenage mother, and my son was run over by a car. He was given a 50-50 chance to live.
Suzanne's journey in the entertainment world was a roller coaster of highs and lows. She tried her best to find her place, facing countless challenges along the way. But in 2000, the devastating blow struck. She was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. It felt like her world had come crashing down.
When you hear those 3 words, you have cancer, wow. That's coming face to face with your mortality.
The lumpectomy and radiation therapy were grueling, and she had to make a tough decision to refuse chemotherapy and explore alternative treatments like mistletoe extract. However, the criticism from some medical experts and the American Cancer Society weighed heavily on her heart.
I can't do this. And he said, but you'll die. I said, I honestly believe I will die if I do what you tell me. The idea of flooding my body with chemical poison just doesn't reckon with who I am.
As if fate had something against her, tragedy struck again in 2007. The wildfire devoured her cherished home in Malibu, leaving her heartbroken and with a profound sense of loss. Memories and belongings are gone in an instant. It was a tough time to pick up the pieces, but despite the pain, she showed strength and determination to move forward. Do you know what she did? She rebuilt her house on the same site, refusing to let the tragedy break her spirit. And then, as if life couldn't throw any more challenges her way, in July 2023, she got the news that her breast cancer had returned. It must have felt like the ground was slipping beneath her feet. But through it all, she found comfort and solace in the loving arms of her husband, Hamel. They've been together for 55 years, and their passion and romance are still burning strong.
You have cancer everywhere. You have a mass on your lung, and it's covering your whole liver, and you have so many masses in your chest, we can't count them, and they're all tumors, and you have a blood clot and you have pneumonia.
Suzanne has faced one health battle after another. Breast cancer in her 50s, skin cancer in her 30s, and dealing with 2 hyperplasia episodes in her 20s. It's been a difficult road, and she's had to endure so much. But Hamel has stood as her rock, supporting her through every hurdle and challenge. Now, with her health as her priority, Suzanne has decided to take a step back from work and focus on her well-being. But she's ready to embrace whatever the future holds with the same determination that brought her this far. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.